Dear colleagues, brothers and sisters, on behalf of the World Federation of Trade Unions, I convey to you a cordial, warm, and militant greeting. In view of the kick-off of the 113th International Labour Conference, we are here again this year to work with all our forces to ensure that the WFTU's message of struggle and demands will reach as many unions and workers as possible. Through our presence and our interventions, to leave our mark and analysis on the issues to be discussed at the conference, and to reveal the class nature of the problems that afflict human societies today, to reveal the role of each and everyone, especially the surrendered trade unionists and the yellow unions. This year is a special year for the WFTU, as it proudly celebrates 80 years since its foundation. It is also 80 years that humanity celebrates the great victory of the peoples against the fascist Nazi onslaught. Of course, it is not by chance that these two anniversaries coincide. The new breath of fresh air, which came as a result of the great anti-fascist victory of the peoples, with the Soviet Union and the Red Army on the front line, also resulted in the WFTU. This important anniversary of the founding of the oldest international trade union organization, which since its foundation developed an uninterrupted presence in all ILO conferences, and which has put its stamp on all the fundamental conventions that guarantee the fundamental rights of workers, such as the right to organize, collective bargaining, and strike, will certainly not go unnoticed. With our speeches, the materials that we will spread out and distribute, but also with the realization of the important side event that we are planning for Monday, June 9, we have to honor and commemorate this anniversary here in Geneva at the ILO headquarters, and to highlight the rich, militant, and struggling historical path of the class-oriented global labor movement. I would like to believe that our participation in this event will be massive and militant, and that not only the WFTU members and all those who are here as members of its delegation, but also friends of the WFTU, that we will mobilize next week, will be present. Today, despite the harsh lessons of history, 80 years after the great anti-fascist victory, the death and destruction left behind by the most destructive war in the history of mankind, imperialist wars, interventions, sanctions, and blockades, unfortunately, continue and intensify. Fascism is reaching its head again and threatening the generalization and deepening of the capitalist crisis, accompanied by new attacks on the rights and achievements of workers, a dramatic widening of social inequalities, further environmental degradation, and reckless over-exploitation of our planet's natural resources. The genocide of Palestinians in Gaza, with the support and encouragement of the United States, the European Union, and their allies, has once again revealed in all its grandeur the hypocrisy, cynicism, and inhuman nature of imperialism. We are proud because under the banner of the World Federation of Trade Union, millions of workers in dozens of countries around the world have mobilized in solidarity with the Palestinian people, demanding justice and freedom for Palestine and condemning not only the barbaric Israeli aggression, but also the complicity and encouragement of this aggression by the ruling circles of imperialism. Through our speeches and interventions, we must give the mark of solidarity and the condemnation of the occupation and the Israeli aggressiveness that characterizes the stance of the class-oriented trade union that rally around the WFTU. Dear colleagues, brothers and sisters, the reality experienced today by billions of workers in the world in terms of living and working conditions is unemployment, precarization, temporary, insecure and uninsured work that is expanding and consolidating, and the deregulation and degradation of working conditions. Anti-grassroots and anti-workers policies systematically undermine labor rights and employment regulated by collective agreements. The authoritarianism of employers and governments is being strengthened, and democratic and trade union freedoms are being systematically shrunk. Major social achievements, such as social security and public health care, are being privatized, while the authoritarian and arbitrary increase of the retirement age is methodically continued. The shift towards a war economy is clear a priority for the ruling circles of capitalism today, as it ensures profitability for multinational monopolies and the expansion of the geopolitical power of developed imperialist states. The United States, the European Union, and their NATO allies are announcing new massive increases in military spending, which, apart from being a threat to global peace and security, also mean even harsher austerity policies and widening social inequality. This reality cannot be concealed behind catchy slogans about new social contracts and decent work. The encouraging and hopeful aspect of this picture of the present world is the fact that workers are not passively accepting the neoliberal capitalist, anti-grassroots and anti-worker attack. Under the leadership and guidance of class unions, millions of workers around the world are choosing the path of struggle to defend their trade union, social and political rights. They demand permanent and stable work regulated by collective agreements to ensure that their modern needs are met, and they fight for measures to support and protect trade union freedoms. As the resistance of workers strengthens and the struggles become more massive and militant, so do the phenomena of authoritarianism and repression and the police persecution of trade union leaders, as well as the attack on trade union freedoms, particularly the right to strike, intensify. At the same time, employers and governments are attempting to manipulate labor struggles, betting on the role of yellow unions and compromised trade union leaders. I think we all know that in many cases, the united struggles of the workers are opposed not only by employers and the state, but also they are opposed by trade unions following the path of class collaboration and integration into the system of exploitation. Dear brothers and sisters, one of the fields of struggle in which the WFTU has given particular importance since its foundations is intervention through the international organizations it participates in, as the decisions of this organization affect the working and living conditions of workers in one way or another. This intervention must promote the positions of the trade union movement and at the same time expose the anti-labor policies and the phenomena of subjugation of these organizations to interests contrary to the expectations and interests of workers. One such international organization of particular importance for the world trade union movement is the ILO. Today's ILO certainly does not meet the demands and expectations of workers. The more pleasant the slogans for consumption become, the more in practice the content and impact of its decisions and on the protection of labor rights and collective bargaining are shrinking and being limited. At a time when globally it is evident that labor relations are continuously deregulated, collective negotiations are shrinking and collective agreements are violated, when stable and permanent employment is being replaced with so-called flexible forms, when child labor, instead of being eradicated, is making a fierce comeback, when public utilities and other social enterprises are rapidly privatized, the ILO's slogan for a new social contract and decent work in practice is evidently an empty slogan. What workers need are rights, measures that counter exploitation and social inequality, that practically support organization, collective bargaining and collective agreements, that limit the greed of monopolies for more and more profits at the expense of wages, health, insurance, and generally to cover the contemporary needs of those who create wealth through their labor. Moreover, a discussion has started within the ILO's governing bodies, described as a discussion on the democratization of the ILO's governance. Any effort for democratization of the ILO governance for us is devoid of meaning if it does not start with the abolition of the unacceptable regime of monopolization of workers' representation by a single international trade union organization. What the WFTU demands and will keep fighting for it is a genuinely representative and pluralistic ILO with democratic and participatory operating procedures as dictated by its role and the reason for which it is supposed to have been created. On the occasion of this ongoing debate in the governing body of the ILO, the WFTU Secretariat has decided to organize a side event here in Geneva on the framework of the ILC on Tuesday, June 10, which will be a panel discussion on how class unions face this challenge and how democracy should be expressed in the governance of the ILO. I hope that also in this event we will have good participation of members and friends of the WFTU who will enrich our thoughts and concerns with their positions. Regarding our role and presence in the various committees of the ILC and the coordination required to ensure that we, as WFTU members, have a substantial presence with positions and proposals based on our class analysis and priorities, there certainly needs to be coordination among us with the appropriate preparation and development of positions and proposals on our part. For the preparation that has been done and the content of the conference's work, Comrade Petros Petru, who monitors our work at the ILO on behalf of the central offices of the WFTU, will brief us. It is important that in all our speeches and interventions at the conference, references are made to the name and role of the WFTU as the representative of the class-oriented international trade union movement. This should be done not only through the speech of the WFTU General Secretary in the plenary, but also through the speeches of all WFTU members and sectoral organizations in the committees and other conferences activities. Thank you all again for your participation and attention, and I hope I'll see you all in Geneva when I will be there. Thank you very much.